All right, man, peace. So, I've just been going through my DVR. Found some old footage from last week, and there was a very good segment on the Skip and Shannon show in regards to Floyd Mayweather. And, of course, there have been quite a few segments since his mega bout with Conor McGregor. But this segment here was very revelatory in regards to why certain people do not like him. So I figured I would just go through it. And look, let me say this. When I speak about Floyd Mayweather, I speak about him only due to his ruling class mentality and him as a fighter. Obviously, I do not know him personally. So you don't know anybody unless you know them on a daily basis. So when I go through this segment and chime in, of course, the statements that I make are going to be based only on what he exhibits as someone with a ruling class mentality. All right, so now let's see what they have to say.
Floyd and Conor had their grand arrivals in Vegas yesterday. Their final press conference before the fight will be later today. During their press tour last month, a number of incidents from Floyd's past were brought up by Conor, including his history of domestic violence. We're joined by Rob Parker. Welcome, Rob.
What's happening, everybody? Good morning.
Good morning,
Rob.
You see, they have the resident idiot, Rob Parker. They always bring him in there in regards to certain conversations pertaining to race. Remember, this is the same guy, Rob Parker, who got released from ESPN because he called Robert Griffin III a quote-unquote cornball brother. Remember, that was back in about, 2012, 2011, 2012. So that was before the preponderance of the word coon started to be proliferated all across the internet. That was before it became popular for a lot of so-called blacks, the woke blacks, to use the word coon all the time. So, I'm sure that he would probably be calling Robert Griffin III a coon right now. But he got fired from ESPN for calling Robert Griffin III a quote-unquote cornball brother. That's what he said, because he was married to a so-called Caucasian woman. So Skip likes to throw him on the panel when it comes to certain controversial topics, particularly regarding who Skip deems to be polarizing athletes. That's why you'll oftentimes see Rob Parker in conversations involving Floyd Mayweather, Aaron Rodgers, and LeBron. Those are the three athletes that Skip loves to hate. So, but anyway, let's get back to the topic. Let's see what they have to say.
Skip, let me start with you.
What? What do you mean?
How polarizing is Floyd, Skip?
Okay, you guys give me a minute here.
Go ahead.
I will up front admit this. I sometimes let my heart get in the way of my head when I'm picking against Floyd Mayweather Jr.
In other words, you're unprofessional.
Because I just have a hard time liking him. So my objectivity gets a little cloudy.
In other words, you're not really a journalist. You're just a fan on television. That's what you are, sir. And I've stated before about Skip Bayless in the past. He's what you call he's a very shrewd liberal Caucasian. As he stated already, he oftentimes was called by the Caucasian elite, the NFL owners that he knows very well. He was often called a communist, which is just a code word for an agent of chaos. All right. But Floyd Mayweather represents the type of so-called black male that is very contrary to the liberal Caucasian agenda. They need you to be a pawn. You cannot think like a king. You have to think like a pawn. This is why I've stated over and over and over again, the liberal blacks follow the liberal whites. The woke blacks follow the woke whites. All right. Remember that that Wall Street thing that they had a couple of years ago, Occupy Wall Street? What was that? That was a bunch of woke blacks following a bunch of woke whites. All a bunch of weed heads and degenerates and morons. That's what they were. All right. But anyway, let's see what else he has to say about Floyd Mayweather.
Even though I'm giving Conor McGregor a great shot to win this fight, sometimes I stop and question myself. Is it just because I just can't take Floyd out of the ring? I've concluded he's just a bad guy, and it's hard to get around the fact that I believe he's a bad guy.
It's amazing how people can get on television and talk about who's a bad guy and who's not a bad guy when you don't know that person personally. Now, let me say this. about Floyd Mayweather and a lot of other elite so-called black athletes. Most of them are members of the Boule. Okay? How do I know that? Because you could tell by certain hand signs that they throw up in different photographs or propaganda pieces. You could tell by some of their affiliations. You could tell by some of the things that they say. This is why I led the video stating explicitly that when I evaluate Floyd, I only evaluate him based on his exploits in the ring and the ruling class mentality that he shows. Okay? But let's understand something. When a person like Skip Bayless is speaking about Floyd Mayweather, he's not speaking about him from a perspective of understanding. He's speaking about him from a perspective of frustration because, once again, when you have a ruling class mentality as a so-called black man, that means you cannot be manipulated by the liberal whites that love to manipulate you so much.
And there's a big part of me that just wants Floyd to suffer an all-time humiliating defeat, a 49-1 defeat at the hands of some MMA fighter from Ireland who's going to waltz into the ring for his first ever professional boxing match. I will admit that up front.
So that means that everything else that you have to say after that is not valid.
I've often said Floyd's the best defensive fighter ever. I've told you that many times. But I just find it impossible to root for him outside the ring, and it's not just because he flaunts his extreme wealth, which...
Yes, no, it's mostly because he flaunts his extreme wealth. You're jealous. All right, as most people are. And look, I understand to a degree because most people are very insecure in this society. So if you're very insecure, you're going to be infuriated by a man who loves to flaunt his material items. I get it. But, you know, when you're self-defined and self-validated, you don't care about stuff like that. I've already mentioned in the past, I think that a lot of the documentary shows that Floyd is involved in, like All Access, they've taken a big downturn because they've given him too much creative control. He talks too much about the cars and the strip clubs and all that. I don't care about all that shit. I like to watch the training. That, to me, is why 24/7 was so great, was because they showed the training. All right. Those shows inspired a lot of people, man. I remember those shows back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. You know, a lot of the young boxers coming up today were motivated and inspired by those little clips of him training back then. And I don't think Floyd understands how much he inspired a lot of people, not even just in the boxing world, but just in general, with the hard work and the dedication that he showed just in those little snippets that were on those documentaries. I mean, to me personally, watching him put down bricks of cash and glorifying these hoes, these tatted up hoes that's shaking their ass, I don't care about that. That shit is a dime a dozen.
Which he's great, but we've seen a lot of athletes, black and white, flaunt their extreme wealth. But I'm going to just hit this one time, and I'm going to leave it alone. I don't want to rub it in or pile on here, but Floyd...
Yeah, that's what you did. Probably what you did to Joy Taylor. You hit it one time and left it alone. Allegedly.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. has a long history of domestic violence. And let me just read briefly from a piece I found in Business Insider that summed it all up and then broke it down. Since 2002, Mayweather has been accused of violence against women with alarming frequency. He pleaded guilty in 2 of those incidents, and in another he was convicted only to have the charges dismissed 4 years later.
Now look at Joy Taylor's face. Joy Taylor's getting triggered by all this. Why? Because she used to get her ass whooped by a guy. Let me say this quickly. Look, if you're a female, the only time that it's a man's fault when you get your ass whooped is the first time that he whoops your ass. Every time after that is your fault because you decided to stay with him. All right? Let me put that out there very, very quickly. Every time that you get your ass whooped after that first time, it's your fault because you stayed with him. In regards to a man, if you have to put your hands on a woman, then that means, number one, that you made a very, very severe mistake in the woman that you chose. And number two, you have a little bit too much spirit into that woman. Okay? The woman is not... This is why I go over this incessantly. You're not supposed to be falling in love with the woman. You're supposed to love the woman. All right? Everything has to be done with proper moderation. You cannot get too extreme with anything that you do especially in regards to so-called relationships in this society, because they're too capricious. They can be here today and gone tomorrow. A lot of these guys that's running around whipping women's asses and all that other stuff, it's a major control issue, and it's really reflective on how much they put the woman on a pedestal and what little control they have over themselves. A lot of times it's because they have low self-esteem. They may not feel that they're going to be able to find another woman. So they have to try to control the woman to, quote unquote, make her stay. If you're a man and you look in the mirror and you know that you are self-defined, you're not worried about another woman. 99 times out of 100, the Lord is going to send you another woman quick, fast, and in a hurry, and the next one's going to be better than the previous one. You know, these women in this society, they're like buses, man. You get on that bus, you sit in the seat, somebody was sitting there before you, and most likely somebody going to be sitting in that seat after you. All right? In this society. Now, if you're very fortunate, you may be able to get into a beneficial relationship with a mature-minded woman, but as a man, you have to stipulate, you know, everything that's going on in that relationship. You cannot let a woman stipulate the rules of engagement in your relationship, or you're going to end up one of these guys who's emotionally unstable. That's how you end up whooping a woman's ass, man. And that's that's a storm that you don't want to be caught up in. All right. So I don't approach these things from the emotional angle. OK, I just don't. And you're going to see as we watch this segment, Skip, being the manipulator that he is, being a liberal white, it's going to be very, very easy for him to sway the so-called black female in Joy Taylor. You know, and really she's already mixed up anyway due to her lineage, and also the fact that she's just confused by nature. And also you're going to see how easy it's going to be for him to manipulate the mind of the liberal black Shannon Sharpe, and also the buffoon Rob Parker, you know, just by his rhetoric and his rehashing of Floyd's quote unquote domestic violence past. And like I said before, when I look at stuff like that, that's more of a reflection of Mayweather's immaturity in how to deal with women and how to pick women. OK, when you pick trashy women, you're going to end up smelling like trash.
The most recent incident in which he hit his ex-girlfriend in front of two of their children at 5 a.m. in 2010 resulted in what we all know, 90-day prison sentence. Then it goes on into gory detail. And
let me say this. See, Floyd Mayweather, he was under the misconception that he owned that woman just because he put her up in a house. So he went in there thinking that she was going to be a quote unquote kept woman, and went through her phone and saw some text messages from some basketball player. I think his name was C.J. Watson. Look, brothers, you don't know what these women or your woman or that woman is doing when you're not around. You can't get caught up in all that. You just can't. What he was supposed to do was say no problem. If the house was in his name, right? He sees those text messages. Oh, good. So that means you have a new sponsor, right? Be out of my house in 60 days or however many days is legal. It's no problem. Right? You have to wage these battles and these wars with your mind, not with your hands. And I think that little stint that he was forced to endure made him mature a little bit. Right? Now he understands much better. Right? He's dealing with these females. When it don't work out, you give me back all the stuff that I gave you. That's how he's operating, because he's the one that's buying him all that stuff. So that shows a little bit more maturity in regards to how he's conducting himself. There's no need for you to get all caught up in the fisticuffs and all that nonsense, man. You are a high valued commodity. Why would you allow yourself to play in the mud, with the swine? Don't do that.
And this history of domestic abuse and violence is way beyond, to me, Greg Hardy or Ray Rice. And now he owns a strip club in Las Vegas called Girl Collection. It's just disgusting to me.
Yeah, I know. That's so disgusting. Because we all know he took those women out of a nunnery. They were all going to be nuns and change the world. They were all righteous women before they signed up for Girl Collection. He walked around to them and he made them an offer that they couldn't refuse because they were all virgins. Right? They were all going to go to India and help the poor, and Africa and feed the poor and help the victims of AIDS before he adulterated them with his offer of stripping at his club. All he did was take a bunch of whores and he said, you know what, let's make money together. That's all he did. And yes, they are a girl collection. They're a collection of girls. As I've stated, most of the women in this society are pretty much the same from 15 to 45. It is what it is. All right. He's making money off them and they're making money off him. It's a great business arrangement. Nobody has a problem when Hugh Hefner has the Playboy Mansion.
With that history. And we all know he posted a racist rant against Pacquiao before their fight. And he called McGregor a gay slur, but I'll be the first to admit McGregor made racist remarks to Floyd and about Floyd. I give you that.
In retrospect, I don't believe that McGregor made any racist remarks to Mayweather. I believe that the term monkey is a colloquialism that's used in Ireland. There's different terms that are used overseas. Now, I was watching an episode of All Access, and McGregor's boxing trainer from Ireland talked about when McGregor first came into the boxing gym, and he said, because McGregor came in with some soccer shoes on, some soccer boots, and he said, he had those monkey boots on. Right? It's obvious that term has a different connotative usage over in Ireland. Either way, to me, it was never a big deal because, look, I don't get caught up in what Caucasians think about any subject at all. I don't care what they think about any subject at all. All right. So-called blacks give them that power when you allow them to offend you to such a degree over every little thing that they say. Right. What they say and what they think has no bearing on me at all. Obviously, we have to be aware of what's going on around us in regards to laws that get passed and regimes that get changed. We understand that. But from a societal perspective, so-called blacks allow the Caucasian to influence them in regards to the Caucasian thought process far too much. But as I've stated, I do not believe that McGregor made that statement from a racial perspective. When he said the dancing monkeys in the gym in Rocky 3, he was talking about all the idiots in the gym while Rocky was training. He wasn't talking about the so-called black dudes in L.A. at Apollo Creed's training camp. He was talking about all the guys that Rocky had in the gym before his first fight against Clubber Lang. All right, but it is what it is. It don't really matter. McGregor got his ass whooped anyway.
And then this is the final big point that just blows my mind. After all we talked about on this show, the black community's issues with our now president, Donald Trump.
Now look at what Skip does here, being a very, very slick liberal Caucasian. He's going to pull at the heartstrings of the liberal blacks because he knows that they're simple. All right, he's going to go, he's going to go as low as he can go to try to get blacks, so-called blacks, to hate Floyd Mayweather because he hates him. He's going to pull the Donald Trump card. Oh, this guy supported Donald Trump.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. supported Trump before the election, and then once Trump was elected, he flew to New York to sit with him and pal around with him when he became president. And now Floyd is saying that he's fighting for, quote unquote, all the blacks in the world. And it's just like, what? What? I'm sorry. It just loses me. And now let's just bring it back into the ring for a second.
Why is it supposed to matter whether he lost you or not? You're a Caucasian, man. Who gives a fuck what you think about what he said about that? Let me say this very quickly. Back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, Floyd Mayweather was probably the only black athlete who was speaking about race. If you remember, he was the one who stated that Jeremy Lin was just a regular player. Remember when the Caucasian media was trying to push Jeremy Lin as the greatest player ever? Because he had a 7-game stretch where he was breaking a lot of records due to Mike D'Antoni's offense. I vividly remember watching games on TV where they were comparing him to Magic Johnson, saying that he had more assists than Magic Johnson did in such and such games and so on and so forth. Floyd Mayweather was the only athlete in professional sports who was speaking about that issue in real time. All right. See, what happened with Floyd Mayweather was that he realized that many of these liberal blacks, many of them are simple-minded and they don't have a ruling class mentality. So he stopped talking about race. Right? That's why he did that. Because a lot of these liberal blacks will turn on you. So after he got locked up, he came out with a much more mature mind state. And in regards to his quote-unquote support of Trump, people have to understand something about Donald Trump. Before Donald Trump was known for being the guy on the reality show, he was known for being the guy who who had a lot of major fights and bouts staged in venues that he owned. Mike Tyson also came out in support of Donald Trump. There's a reason why Mike Tyson and Don King and Floyd Mayweather say good things about Donald Trump, because they know him from the boxing world. Okay? Skip doesn't know shit about boxing, and Shannon really doesn't either. But right now, Skip understands how easily so-called blacks can be triggered by the mention of the name Donald Trump, because our people have this incessant need to come together with the Caucasian. This is what I mean when I say that Skip Bayless is a very wily and cunning liberal Caucasian manipulator. He understands how to get the wheels turning with these simple-minded blacks. All right. So now he went real low to dig up the Floyd Mayweather supported Donald Trump. Floyd Mayweather is a virtual billionaire. When you get to that level, you understand that it's really just about understanding the money system. It's not about worrying about what the white man thinks about you. Okay, it's not about getting down on one knee and begging for equality. And Shannon Sharp, when Skip Bayless said what he said about Floyd Mayweather saying that he's fighting for blacks, Shannon Sharp snickered. Shannon Sharp is starting to get on my damn nerve, because you think that he was Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey all rolled into one. This man goes home to a white woman. Okay? So he's starting to get on my nerve with a lot of his bombast. It's starting to go a little too far with the nonsense. But let's see what else Skip Bayless has to say.
Second, I have tried over time, because Floyd's been really great at what he does. I've tried to like him as a fighter. But at times he becomes unwatchable in the ring because he's such a defensive master that he's ruined boxing for me in many ways, because it's just hard to watch.
Right.
Because there's going to be a lot of hunting and pecking, and there's going to be a lot of flicking and running, and it is sweet science. I give you that. And it's beautiful to watch if you're just looking for the science of it.
Right.
Look, let me also say this. When you see Floyd Mayweather fight a certain way, Floyd fights a certain way based on his opponent. Floyd Mayweather has been fighting for over 20 years. Okay? Floyd is the only great athlete that I've ever seen whose career is evaluated based off of how he's performed in the last 1/3 of his career, as opposed to the first 1/3 of his career. That's like if you took a guy like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and you tried to evaluate how he played based off of how he looked from 83 to 89. When you think about Kareem, you start from 69 when he was with Milwaukee. The problem is most of these guys don't really know anything about boxing, so they don't go back and watch Floyd's performances against Chiquinito Hernandez or Diego Corrales and Jesus Chavez, a lot of the dynamic fights that he had at 130, right? They don't look at, the fights against Philip Endo or DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley, Henry Brusellas. A lot of those dynamic performances they don't watch, because most of them didn't really know who Floyd was until he fought De La Hoya. So all this stuff about Floyd being a boring fighter and peck and defense first, of course he's going to fight defensively when he's in there against a professional world-class fighter that outweighs him by 20 pounds. What the fuck you think he's going to do? All right? When the New England Patriots go out there and they win a game, 17-14, what do they say? They say, oh, well, New England adapts to whatever their opponent does and they take away their strengths. And Floyd Mayweather does the same thing. All right? We have to start evaluating greatness in the same way for everybody. You're not going to go out there and compete the same way against every opponent, because every opponent is different.
Right.
But the entertainment value is next to none. So now I have a hard time loving him as a boxer, and I have an impossible time trying to love him outside the ring. Your thoughts?
Skip, I agree with you. It is sometimes hard to like Floyd. Let's just take inside the ring. The reason why he's not embraced like the Leonards and the Alis and the Hagners is because they fought. When they came, they fought. There was no ducking and dodging, but he's found a way that says, I can win the fight without taking this kind of punishment.
Now, Shannon previously was supposed to be one of Floyd's biggest supporters, at least on the show. But you see how Skip's soliloquy was able to manipulate him so easily. This is why I say I have no respect for so-called liberal blacks. I have no respect for most of these so-called pro-blacks. Now, are there people who align themselves or who call themselves pro-black who have a certain level of sentience and intelligence? Yes, there are. I come down on them because most of the time they're just the recipients and the regurgitators of narrative. They don't deal with truth. They deal with narrative. So you see how easily Shannon Sharpe has been turned just off of the very wily trick that Skip played by mentioning Donald Trump and Floyd Mayweather fighting for blacks. That's what really turned Shannon, and you're going to watch it here.
That's true. So if you are a true pure boxing fan, you love what he does because he's hitting people without getting hit. He gets in, he gets out. I mean, he's a burglar.
He's the greatest ever at doing what you just said.
Yes. Outside of the ring, Skip, it's impossible for you to like it. Even and Skip, I'm not the biggest Mayweather fan, and the reason that I'm reading so hard for him in this fight is because Conor McGregor is not American, and Conor McGregor is coming from a different sport, and he thinks that he can do what nobody else has done. He's going into the boxing ring, and I'm going to be the 5-division champ.
Yep.
So if it's a situation where, okay, I don't necessarily really like the guy, or I don't really have a vested interest, but he's fighting the foreigner, I'm always going to pull with the guy at home. I'll treat it like the Olympics. No matter who's running, I'm taking America.
I hear you.
Just like Tiger Woods in 99 at Madonna with Sergio Garcia.
Yep.
I couldn't understand why Americans were rooting for Sergio. Tiger is, I get it, he's black, but he is an American. But that's neither here nor there. Skip, the thing with the domestic violence, you documented numerous occasions, more than we could actually count. There's no sense in talking about that.
Yeah, and there's also there's also records of you allegedly sexually harassing women, Shannon. We know that case was dropped, but let's please understand a woman can say anything. All right? A woman can say anything. So let's please keep that in mind. You know, and that's not to say that Floyd did not do what he was alleged to have done. You know, many times especially when a so-called black man goes to court, a lot of times he'll just take the plea because he gets intimidated by the prospect of getting incarcerated for a crime that he cannot disprove that he did. You know, as a so-called black man in this system, yes, you are guilty until proven innocent for the most part. So if you have the money to pay off the accuser, that's what a guy like Mayweather is going to do because he has to get back to training camp. He doesn't have time to be in a long, strung out court case. This is what happened. If you guys know history, this is what happened when he was fighting Arturo Gatti. All right. Arturo Gatti made him commit to the fight when Floyd was going to go to court to fight a domestic violence charge. And he ended up pleading guilty to the charge just so that he could make the fight with Gatti. And that's the reason why he beat that man's ass so bad in that fight. So a lot of times people, they don't understand the context of what occurred historically. They just talk shit. And Shannon really should be ashamed of himself for jumping on that bandwagon talking about it's impossible to like him personally. How would you know? You don't know him. You never met him a day in your life.
But when he lost me, when he started talking about this Black Lives Matter and talking about all lives matter, now you know what, Floyd, you got to miss me with all that.
No, bro, you have to miss me with all that because, and I mentioned this before about the Black Lives Matter shit. And this is the Black Lives Matter thing was a huge fad back in 2016 that was generated by liberal whites, George Soros in particular. And I've spoken on this for a long time on this channel. All you had to do was go on the Black Lives Matter website for them to tell you what they really were about. And that just goes to show you, as I've said many times, liberal blacks, they don't read. Some of them can't read. You know, they make fun of Floyd Mayweather talking about how he can't read. No, most of you liberal blacks and so-called pro-blacks don't and can't read. Because if you went on their website, particularly being a so-called black man, and you wasn't caught up in the emotional fervor like a bitch or following behind what you saw on television, you will see on their website that their true goal in the Black Lives Matter movement was to create a paradigm where the lesbian black woman became the new figurehead as a leader in the so-called black community. That's what they really was set up to do, was to promote the advancement of homosexuals and lesbians as the leaders of the so-called black community. All right. Their entire top level at the Black Lives Matter movement are all lesbians or homosexuals. OK. And this goes all the way back to the early 1900s, where the black civil rights movement, which was a socialist movement and a communist movement, Luciferian, was all led by homosexuals and bisexuals and trisexuals and pansexuals. All right. From Bayard Rustin and all those guys. So all you got to do is go on the Black Lives Matter movement website, and they'll tell you they're against the patriarchy. What's that mean? They're against black men actually having any say in their home. Okay, therefore the advancement of black homosexuality and black lesbianism. They say that, and black transgenderism. They tell you that point by point on their website. Okay, so when Floyd said, no, it's not Black Lives Matter, it's all lives matter. Well, what do you expect him to say? He's a businessman. Would you like him just to say, you know what? I'm only for so-called black people not getting shot. He didn't say he didn't say I'm for black people getting shot. He said I'm for anybody not getting shot erroneously by the cops. That's all that means to me when somebody says all lives matter. I'm for no one getting shot erroneously by the police. That's how I took that. But when you're emotional, like most of these liberal blacks are, they take that as, oh, well, you know, you're a traitor. My thing is, and I've said this incessantly about the so-called liberal blacks and the pro-blacks. When are you guys going to start the race war already? When are you going to log off the internet and go pop off, man? I'm tired of the bullshit already. Everybody who disagrees with you is supposedly a coon and a coward and this and that. But I have not seen any of your works. I haven't seen, you know, all we got to do is put on the TV. We see how the Arabs get down, allegedly. Right? They blowing themselves up. They driving vans over people. They going out for theirs. Where you niggas at? Because y'all are so militant, right? Allegedly.
And if he was fighting anybody, if he was fighting an American, I don't care if they found the dude on Skid Row. I would take that dude over Floyd Mayweather.
No, you wouldn't. The only reason why you're saying that is because Skip Bayless triggered your simple-minded ass.
What Floyd doesn't understand, and what a lot of people found out the hard way, is that what our president did is that he used them as photo ops.
Yep.
And he talks about he got a lot of black friends, but how many of them are common guys? Well, hell, it's easy to be friends with Don King and Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather.
How many common friends does Barack Obama have? How many common black friends does Barack Obama have? So when Barack Obama took pictures with Denzel Washington and Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey, was that a photo op, or was that because he was down for the cause? How many times did Barack Obama come on TV and make any real and cogent statements about race relations in America until 2016 when you know you saw this flurry of black men getting killed on social media by the cops, and then he was forced to have a town hall meeting where he basically just, you know, tried to not offend anybody.
And this one and that one. But none of them are common folks. So he has nothing in mind with the common folk. As
a matter of fact, shit, where's the video and the pictures of Shannon Sharp with the common folk? Right? And when I Google Shannon Sharp, all I see is pictures of him with his white woman or at the gym or playing football. I've yet to see any photos of Shannon Sharp in the quote unquote black community that he acts like, you know, he's repping so hard for.
Most people, because if you think about it, there are a lot of people that might be racist, but when they see a black and he's famous, he's wealthy, well, he's different. They view you as different. Although you're black and they might not like Allure,
that is absolutely.
They look at Floyd differently.
Yes, and look, let me say this, and this was a point that was touched on in Spike Lee's film Do the Right Thing. That's one of the first films that actually touched on that point, that Caucasians view successful blacks differently than regular blacks. The reason why that is because, number one, they admire, quiet as kept, people of the other races, they admire so-called blacks, and they're waiting for you to get self-respect. When they see a successful so-called black person like a Floyd Mayweather, or back in the day, a Magic Johnson, a Michael Jackson, a Prince, they see somebody who applied themselves and wasn't waiting for a Caucasian man to give them a hug. So that's why they give that person more respect. Okay? At the end of the day, these other races are never going to feel sorry for our people. So you're either going to be self-defined and self-validated and stop looking to them for any form of inspiration or acceptance. Look, I'm not saying that you're not supposed to look to this society for help. The government has put itself in a position where it has to help its quote-unquote citizenry, aka debt slaves. But the reason why affluent blacks are looked at differently as regular so-called blacks is because the connotation is that they had to work harder to get to be successful, so they deserve more respect. I mean, I'm sorry, but Tom Hanks and Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt are viewed differently than Jeb from the trailer park. So it works both ways. But of course, our people Yes, we are at the bottom in this society, but that's a spiritual thing. Most of our people don't accept the spiritual aspect of our condition, which is why they're always confused.
Floyd somehow forgot the fact that he was black. After this, I'm gonna go back. Hopefully, once this fight is over, Skip, we talk about it probably Monday or Tuesday. Floyd retires from boxing, and I never have to mention his name again. I'll be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of hatred, man. That sounds like a lot of jealousy and envy. All right. Supposedly, Floyd Mayweather forgot that he was black, allegedly, according to Shannon Sharp. But I would pretty much guarantee that if we were to audit Floyd Mayweather's expenses and Shannon Sharp's expenses, I would pretty much bet that Floyd Mayweather has spent and invested more money in helping so-called black people than Shannon Sharp has done. All right, even if we were to make it proportionate, okay, I would bet that Floyd Mayweather has spent a larger percentage of his money helping so-called black people than Shannon Sharp has done. I would bet everything on that.
I got it.
I'm with both of you guys from this standpoint.
Of course you are, because Skip Bayless, the liberal white, issued a proclamation, and you silly niggas had to follow behind it.
He's just somebody I've never been able to embrace. I get it. I covered boxing back to the 90s, and I was in Vegas all the time and all that. And I would rather go see a Mike Tyson fight where someone's going down in the first 3 rounds.
Yes, Mike Tyson, the mentally broken, mentally fractured pedophile victim. Right, and I've said in the past, I believe he was molested by Cus D'Amato, allegedly. I believe Cus was his handler, but it is what it is. I've stated that years ago that I believe that Cus D'Amato used to prey on little black and Hispanic boys that he found at boys' homes. Guys like Jose Torres and Floyd Patterson and Mike Tyson, and that's why they have that very demure, personality, but then they have the ferocious alter ego. Right, those are all telltale signs of molestation, allegedly. All right, but anyway, Mike Tyson, same guy who admitted that he's done a lot of horrendous things to people, to women, right? Who knows what else, what other dastardly things he's done in his life. But, he's the new popular figure for everybody to root for. Why is that? Because he's been broken. And, these things are also generational. One of the favorite things that the media likes to do, they like to take notable black boxers, and they like to demonize them in relation to the black boxer that came the generation before. The only one who they really didn't do that with was Joe Louis, because Joe Louis was fully controlled. All right, he was fully controlled by the Jewish advertising companies and by the Caucasian Jew media. All right, he was the guy. I'm trying to remember who his promoter's name was. I know his last name was Jacobs. But Joe Louis was set up to be the anti-Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was the first famous black athlete that they could not control. So Joe Louis came in as the anti-Jack Johnson. And when Ali came to the forefront in the 60s, he was demonized, and they said he was not Joe Louis. Now, when Mike Tyson came to the forefront, he was demonized, and they said, well, you're not great like Muhammad Ali. And then when Floyd Mayweather has come around, they said Floyd Mayweather's a bad guy. We miss Mike Tyson. So that's basically how it goes with the media. They like to demonize the current black boxer, quote unquote black boxer, and glorify the one from the previous generation. That's pretty much how it works. But it's a game that they play.
First 3 rounds or whatever, then to watch a Floyd fight. And the other thing is, I just stopped paying for it, watching it, because I just got nothing from those. When you add in that and all the other stuff, that he just wasn't a fighter I enjoyed watching, but then all the outside stuff and the Trump stuff and the flaunting of his wealth, you could do all that all you want, but when you add it all up into a big mix, a lot of people were turned off.
Yes.
And I'm going to admit that if it wasn't for Conor McGregor's racist press conferences or whatever, that's the only reason I want to see Floyd win. For no other reason. Not about the record, not because I like him. I can't get with Conor McGregor. He turned me off so much during those. No, and I'm just saying.
Plus he's not. I can't root for. I can't Skip. For me, Skip. I can't root for. And like I said,
Spit it out, nigga. Goddamn. I can't root for, excuse me, Skip. Yeah.
I don't like the things that Floyd has done outside of the ring. He's not very pleasing to the eye aesthetically in the ring, unless you're the purest form of boxing. You love that. But Skip, I can't root for Conor McGregor over Floyd Mayweather.
I got it. But I hear you.
I think black people in this case.
Here we go. Another simple-minded nigga trying to speak for all black people. Let's see what dumb shit he's gonna say.
Who weren't always Floyd fans for a number of reasons that we just talked about. I think this is probably the fight to where most are pulling for Floyd to win. And it's very weird and strange. It really, really is, because he's not just polarizing. In the black community, he's very polarizing.
Well, I don't know about all that. I would say that he is to a degree polarizing. But it's mostly an issue of whether or not you're a jealous nigga or not. Anybody who knows the so-called black community, you have a lot of people who are jealous because you have a lot of people who are confused. People who are confused are normally very jealous of people who are not confused. What does it mean to be confused? It means you don't have a vision for your own life, so you have no focus. People who are not confused, they have a vision for their own life, and they're very focused. All right? Having a focus and a vision is a gift from above. When you don't know what you want to do with your life, you're basically just a leaf out here floating in the wind. And those are the people who tend to try to cause confusion in other people's lives. All right? And it comes out as envy and jealousy, which becomes malice. And those tend to be the people who don't like or who despise so-called blacks with the ruling class mentality.
Normally a guy who's such a champion would be loved by all people. He's black, he's won every fight.
No,
not the case.
He's not viewed like Venus and Serena.
No.
Please, everybody don't like them. I don't like them. A couple of big-ass trannies, allegedly. The fuck out of here.
He's not viewed like that. He's not viewed like Tiger was until Tiger told us what he wasn't.
Right.
No. Tiger Woods was an anomaly. Tiger Woods was somebody who was breaking down a barrier in a sport where you had a guy like a Jack Nicklaus who said that blacks would never do well in golf. All right. Plus, Tiger Woods is an MK athlete.
Right. But I want to see him go 50-0. And I know a lot of people will be upset. Well, if he goes 50-0, he did it against a guy that wasn't a boxer. Well, that's not his fault. It's not his fault that people wanted to see this, and they're going to buy it in big, and he's going to make a ton of money. That has a lot to do with it also. But when he started talking about these politics, and he talking about all lives matter and black lives, I was like, dude.
Yeah, that shit triggered a lot of the pro-blacks. They got really upset by Floyd when he said that. And as I've already stated, the reason why he said that was he basically was saying that it's not okay for a cop to shoot anybody erroneously, not just a so-called black person. But niggas got so triggered by that stuff because a lot of our people are plugged into social media. Shannon Sharp is a social media addict, so they see a couple of murders of so-called black men by the police, and they get totally triggered by it, as opposed to understanding that if you claim to be a very proud American, which most liberal blacks claim to be, then you have to champion injustice for all races, right? That's you guys' platform is that. So I don't understand why you're getting mad at Floyd Mayweather for saying that.
You have no idea what you're talking. You have no idea. You have none. And look.
No, it's just that you disagree.
Look, you like who you like, Skip, because like I said, most people vote with their back pocket in mind. And then you get down to it, all things being equal. Okay, where do I stand on this? Where do I stand on that? But Floyd makes it really hard for you to like it.
Yeah.
Only if you have a low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Shannon, will there be a big celebration? I see him winning, obviously, but I don't think people are going to go crazy or celebrate. Oh my God, he did it! He's 50-0.
Well, as we look back in postscript, obviously there was a big celebration. They broke all the records for viewership, and yes, Floyd was humongous all across the world in regards to the acclaim that he received for doing what he did. All right, so Rob Parker was extremely incorrect in his appraisal, as usual.
Oh, do you know what I mean? I still don't even think the celebration of him will be as big as it would have been.
Yeah, but I mean, that would be contrary to his brand. That would be contrary to his brand. I mean, that's very assumptive. That's based off of the assumption that he cares about the acclaim. I mean, let's be for real. Most people are phony. They just are. Most people are only with you for a certain space, a certain period of time. But this is why I always talk about being self-defined. And this is once again why they don't like Floyd. I mean, let's be honest. We see this in all walks of life. People get very frustrated by you when they see that you don't care if you like them or not. Because it makes them feel invalid. It makes them feel irrelevant. People want to feel like they have a say in how you feel about yourself. And when they see that they don't, they do their best to try to make themselves a major part of your life. It's really a reflection on the low self-esteem that they have. Okay? That's basically how it goes. That's why it is very tough to have a ruling class mentality. That's why most people don't want to do it, because they'd rather be part of the hive. They don't want to be a ruler. They want to be just another drone. It makes them feel more comfortable. And, most people don't really know what the hell their purpose in life is. So it's just easier to go along with what everybody else is doing and to be more concerned with how they're perceived than what life is really about.
He should win. I mean,
No, right. He should.
Yeah.
Yes.
Weigh in.
Oh, I mean, I think everyone knows how I feel about Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, no, but nobody cares. You're mad at Floyd because of your bad relationship decisions. Like most women in their early 30s, you made a series of bad relationship decisions, got your ass whooped, stayed with the guy because you love drama, and now you want to blame Floyd Mayweather for all the bullshit that you put yourself through. All right? I don't give two fucks. But I can see when you look at Skip Bayless, he got that little wily grin on his face because he knows that he's done a good job of manipulating these three simpletons for a segment and turning them against Floyd Mayweather for his own benefit and for his own gain. It makes him feel better about himself. That is why, once again, he very, very slyly stated certain things in his initial opening soliloquy, his monologue, that he knew would trigger all three of them. With Joy Taylor, it was the domestic violence past. With Shannon and Rob Parker, it was the Donald Trump stuff. That is why Skip did what he did. Very slick. For simpletons, very slick.
There's no need to hammer on that again. I think when it comes down to this fight, you can really only focus on what goes on in the ring. The tour that they went on turned a lot of people off
Yes,
McGregor.
absolutely.
But you measure the two of them when it comes even to the racist stuff. Mayweather is not exempt from that at all.
No, not at all.
Well, shit. Is he a sellout or is he a racist? Which one is it, bitch? Like, come on, let's be for real. This is how you know they don't really know what the hell they think about Floyd Mayweather. And that's what happens when you have that type of mentality. People don't know what to think about you. It's like, damn, let me just say anything so that I can try to bring him down to where I'm at.
Not at all.
So, you measure the two of them when it comes to that. I think you can only really look at this fight as what's going to happen in the ring. And to the people that feel that it's not a 50-0 record, this is a boxing match.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I win in there, if you win in there.
Right.
If you're boxing, you are a sanctioned boxer. It's a sanctioned boxing match.
Agreed.
So he should get the record if he wins. But
Yeah.
But it's not really a record. It's just going to be his record. All right? But it'll be a perfect bowl on a perfect career.
Because
yeah,
you got to be sanctioned by Nevada, right? In order to
right,
even
exactly. It's a box.
Why you asking? You're supposed to be a journalist. Didn't you say you covered boxing in the 90s? You don't know that shit? You don't know that they have to sanction a boxing match for it to count? This is what I call it. This guy's a dumbass, man.
Boxing match. It's a boxing
Let
match.
me get one of them back.
Let me get this straight. You mean you actually have to be sanctioned for the boxing match to count? Okay. And so if I were to play football, I have to wear a helmet, right?
One of them bags, Floyd. All that being said, let you go get one of them bags.
I got it. You don't want a bag from him. Stop it. Would you take a bag from him?
I most certainly would.
No.
Of course you would, because you the real sellout. That's why. Shannon, one of them guys that Floyd invited him to watch him train at the gym. Shannon had come out, oh, I'm so sorry, Floyd. I was just talking. Skip had me, had my mind spinning. But I love you. Almost like much I love LeBron. Can I get one of them bags, please? Me and LeBron going out on a date. I think it'll look good with my boots. Thank you, Floyd. You the greatest. TBE.
No, you wouldn't.
On Saturday
That's
night.
where his principles end.
What?
Can I conclude that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the most polarizing athlete ever?
Now, you see what Skip just did there? Now he's going to try to put a nice little bow on this conversation. He sees that he has put the hook in the nose of these three simple-minded liberal blacks. He's gotten them to avow their dislike for Mayweather in the segment, to come against him because he has a ruling class mentality. And now Skip is going to try to bring it home by calling him the most quote-unquote polarizing athlete ever, meaning the one who engenders the most hate and love at the same time. That's what it means to be polarizing, right? So why is Skip so concerned with casting him in this light? Because he knows that he cannot control Floyd Mayweather. It bothers him.
I don't know if he has enough people that like him.
Like
Yeah. Okay.
How could you not have enough people that like you when he's breaking the records for viewership? You fucking dummy. You know, this is what I'm talking about with these people on television. They're so hilarious. The most disliked athlete is never going to be the most popular athlete. All right? Floyd Mayweather's popularity is measured by the amount of pay-per-view buys that he is able to engender amongst the masses at large. Now, people will say, oh, well, this was he fought Conor. It's because he fought this guy, that guy. Floyd Mayweather is the only constant in all of those equations. Whether it's Pacquiao, whether it's Conor McGregor, whether it's De La Hoya, whether it's Canelo Alvarez. He is the only constant. All right? So it cannot be an issue of him not having enough people who like him. It has to be an issue that he's able to create or engender this level of fervor in people that they cannot understand. Just because somebody acts like they dislike you doesn't mean they actually do. A lot of these people are so mentally disturbed, they show how much they like you by being nasty to you. Right? Because they're very emotionally immature.
Okay. What about,
he may be one of the most disliked champions ever.
I'm thinking Floyd, Tom Brady, no? Tebow.
Tom Brady's not on Floyd's level. Sorry. He's just not on Floyd's level in any way. He is the top athlete in football, but boxing is a global sport. Football is not a global sport. And when we start to discuss the most polarizing athletes of all time, we're always going to be discussing mostly black men, whether it's Ali, Mike Tyson, Jack Johnson. These are the guys who are the most polarizing.
Tebow.
Maybe.
But I said Tebow, LeBron, Tom Brady have an almost equal.
You know what I mean?
Like and dislike.
Right. People that like
There
him.
are not enough that like him.
Right.
Rob will be back later.
All right, so I just really wanted to include this segment because I thought it was very, very revelatory, especially in regards to a lot of the themes that I speak on this channel, in regards to the manipulation tactics that the liberal Caucasians use on liberal blacks. We saw it here firsthand. These are normally tactics that get utilized behind the scenes, behind closed doors, where the liberal Caucasian will use certain trigger terms to manipulate the leadership amongst liberal blacks, and then he'll send them out to propagate his message of confusion and the tearing down of so-called blacks that have a ruling class mentality. And it's a topic that I'll be getting into a little deeper in other videos. But it was just very interesting how Skip Bayless set up his statements, knowing very well how it would influence the other members of the panel to speak on Floyd Mayweather. All right. But anyway, peace.